I have written and rewritten this one so many times, but I cannot make it any shorter than this. Kombucha is incredibly easy to make, but because there are no real hard and fast rules, teaching people how to make it takes a while. While most cooking videos aim to teach technical skills, this one requires judgment training. So here's what you'll need. A glass container, I like one that can hold 1 or 2 gallons, black tea, white sugar, a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, also called a SCOBY, a mushroom, or a mother, and yes, a small volume of raw, unflavored kombucha. Just like you need yogurt to make yogurt and a crane to build a crane, you will need some finished product to start your own journey. Most of the people who sell SCOBYs will include a cup or 2 of starter tea, but if they leave you high and dry, hit the store and buy the last $5 boots you'll ever need. Kombucha starts off with tea, and you wouldn't want to use oily Earl Grey or herbal tisanes. I actually like making mine using these giant bags of Lipton. Each bag makes a gallon of tea, so I don't need to filter out loose leaf or untie dozens of tiny bags. This needs to steep for 5 minutes to become strong tea. Kombucha is fermented in the presence of bacteria and yeast, and those little bugs love to eat sugar. Not sucralose, not stevia, but pure cane sugar. For a gallon of tea, you need a cup of sugar, and you'd be right to suspect that the result is a sickly sweet iced tea. Fret not, the SCOBY is gonna eat most of the sugar before you even take your first sip, so now is not the time to get all health conscious about it. I like to add the sugar while the tea is still warm so that it dissolves more easily, but this does have to cool down totally and completely before moving on, lest ye kill the microorganisms you aim to foster. In a glass container, combine 1 SCOBY with 2 cups of plain kombucha and 1 gallon of room temperature sweet tea. This is a gallon jug, so there will be some tea left over to mix with bourbon and lemon juice out on the veranda. Cover this with something breathable like a cheesecloth, coffee filter, or dish towel, and secure it tightly with a rubber band. Fruit flies love acid more than Facebook employees on microdose Mondays, so you've got to keep them separated. And now you wait. Maybe 1 week, maybe 2. It'll all depend on how acidic your brew is and how warm your home is. This is the hardest part for newbies because it feels like you bought all the stuff, did all the work, and you want to stare at it every day just to make sure that it's done right. But honestly, the margin of error is wider than the pay range at Condé Nast, so just let it sit somewhere cool and dark for a week, and every several days give it a taste. I find it easy to dip a straw in and take a sample that way. You don't want to be sticking your hands in there too often. No matter when you declare it done, it will be kombucha. It won't kill you, and there's no official point at which it can be considered done like there is with cooking. It'll either be too sweet, too tart, or delicious. And since you're the only one who can judge that, you're the only one who can decide when to call it done. This batch is done, but if you pour it into a glass and serve it to someone who was raised on GT Dave's line of goods, they'll notice that 2 things are missing. 1, a familiar flavor agent like ginger or fruit, and 2, an aggressive fizz strong enough to rival soda. To achieve both of those traits, a second fermentation must take place. Second fermentation, often abbreviated as 2F, needs to take place in a sealed environment. Up until now, this breathable vessel has let carbon dioxide out, but 2Fing in a sealed environment will build up tons of pressure and dissolve CO2 into the liquid, thus carbonating it. You'll have to use something industrial strength like Grolsch-style flip-top bottles. You can't use any old glass container that isn't manufactured and rated for brewing because it could easily explode, shooting fragmented glass into your eyes, mouth, and heart. Fill your bottle about 60% up with your homemade kombucha, and then 30% with some kind of juice. I like something pasteurized and super sweet like canned Dole, Welch's grape. You can use chunks of real fruit, but to me, the resulting particulate matter makes the final drink a little off-putting. 60 plus 30 only equals 90%, but that's because you have to leave a little bit of headroom here for air. Every airtight ferment is a potential bomb, and that air gap helps keep you a little bit safer. At this point, you will need to open each bottle daily to see how bubbly it's gotten. After 2 or 3 days, it should be easy to get a violent eruption, even if you barely crack the seal. Once you get there, call them done and stick them in the fridge. Not only will a cold environment virtually cease further fermentation, but carbon dioxide dissolves into cold liquids more easily than it does in warm ones. It's why less than icy beer or champagne can be so texturally disappointing. And it's why your warm homebrew splatters a pollock onto the cabinets every time. With practice, you'll get a feel for what pace you can expect your fermentations to take. For noobs, I actually recommend that they do their first 2F in a big plastic bottle. That way you can actually see and feel how active things inside are. It won't be as fizzy since The thin plastic can't hold as much pressure as glass, but its rock hard nature lets you know that it's rip roaring and ready to get down your gullet. So that was a lot of talking, but it's mostly conceptual stuff. Make a gallon of sweet tea, add it to 2 cups of kombucha with a SCOBY, and let it sit until it tastes good. To add bubbles, add something sweet, bottle it for a couple of days, and chill before serving. That's how to make kombucha for less than $1 a glass. So why is it so expensive in stores? Well, think about it. It's a live product. Once this returns to room temperature, all of that activity resumes and the pressure resumes building. So to sell booch in the store, you either have to kill all the microorganisms inside so that it's shelf stable, or keep it cold all the way down the entire supply chain. But no longer do you concern yourself with the pitfalls of commercialized kombucha. You are now part of the Homebrew Society. And just like any other group of enthusiasts, there exists an endless number of ways to experiment. You could swap the black tea for green and the cane sugar for honey to make June, which is like the champagne of kombuchas. You could try using a continuous brew vessel with a spigot at the bottom so that you have a constant supply instead of staggered batches. Or you could go really wild, buy some extra equipment, and make alcoholic hard kombucha. With your new pet SCOBY, anything is possible. Just make sure that she is always luxuriating in a few cups of plain unflavored leftover kombucha. Since I never pour out the last few cups, all I ever need to do is add sweet tea to make a new batch. With each brew, the SCOBY will grow in size or duplicate, which helps the fermentation happen more quickly than before. If you get overrun, sell them for $5 each on Craigslist, compost them, or blend them up with fruit to dehydrate them into fruit leather. Some people like to keep all of their extra SCOBYs in a separate vessel submerged in booch, colloquially referred to as a SCOBY hotel. That, I think, is all I have to say about kombucha for now. I also believe that this is the part at which I'm expected to come up with some kind of super smooth segue, but who likes being surprised by ads? End of lesson. And by the way, there is an ad coming up. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for the creative and the curious. If you're going to be stuck at home all day and planned to spend it watching TV and movies, consider how you might improve your career prospects or sense of communication with video training instead. Part of why I'm doing this ad is because I want to get on Skillshare's good side so that they let me put out a course about video-based instruction, but until then, I have to pick one course to talk about. So hey everybody, look at Pricing Your Work by Peggy Dean. Since Skillshare is aimed at creatives, you get content that's far more targeted and applicable beyond just how to use this Adobe product, and in this case, real deep into this is how to value your work as a freelancer. Skillshare is giving away 2 free months of premium membership to the first 1,000 people who click the link in the description box to help you explore your creativity. And after that, it's only around $10 a month.